Now for the main event. Before we kick off the conversation, I just wanted to introduce the participants for today's discussion. Leading the webinar will be Guy Cesario, Director of Dealer Success at Netzol, and he's assembled an esteemed group of panelists. First, Steve Filipos, CATA Manager, Media Strategy Chairman and Dealer Principal, Chevrolet and Ford of Homewood. Next is Jen Mullen, VP of Traffic Management, Sonic Automotive, and finally, Jason Hilton, Sales Project Manager, Hendricks Luxury Group. Thank you all for taking time out to join us. So we are in great hands today, and with that, I will pass it off to Guy. Guy?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We already had the introduction, so to kick things off, I'd like to get a sense of where the panelists stand in the digital transformation journey that we're all on right now. So Jen, Jason, and Steve, what would you say your dealership is when it comes to your digital, basically practices online? More old school, in the middle of becoming more technically into everything, or on the cutting edge of everything digital? Jen, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Sure. I wish I could say we were on the cutting edge, but I would say that we're probably more in the middle. I think that because as an automotive group, we have different divisions of our group, certain ones are more advanced than others. So for example, our Echo Park side of the business is a little more advanced in their omni strategy and the digital change. And I would say our franchise stores are recognizing the need for change. We understand that, and we're looking at different ways to change, but we're not there yet. But I think that we all agree and align on it is time to make some changes and advancements to make it easier for the customer.
Okay, so in the middle is good. How about you, Jason?
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat. So we're, I got 26 stores I support out of the Hendrick Group, and I would say that we're searching for new technology solutions, tools to help us kind of streamline things and make better contact, more meaningful contact with the customers. But we are far from where I think we should be. And of course, we come from an industry that's historically pretty archaic. So, in the middle and really trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and find the right partners to do that with.
Okay. And then Steve, how about you and your stores?
You know what? I have to say we too are in the middle, but for a lot of reasons. No, the first reason is it's us. It's all us. We are archaic, like somebody else just said. But in addition to that, it's the customer base. We can over technologize our customers to the point of non-understanding what they're looking for. And we've seen that happen on many occasions.
And that actually brings up a pretty good point that I was going to ask Jason and Jen. Are there things that you wish that you would be doing already that you're not, just because you think it may be too far ahead of the curve and the customers or even the people at the store aren't going to keep up with it?
I'm kind of with Jason on his comments about trying to find the right technologies and figuring out where we want to be in that space. I don't think it's so much that the people in the stores can't keep up with it, but I think it's change. I think this industry always struggles when it comes to change, especially with technology advancements. Sometimes they're welcome, sometimes they're not. And I think when we start talking about digital, it gets really challenging where you want to put everything in the hands of the consumer, but then you still have the in-store teams that want to control and want to make changes and don't want it to be 100% online. So there's kind of that give and take and that balance. And we're trying to find the right way to do it in a manner where we can get our teams to buy in and we don't just make the change and tell them to do it. So we're trying to find that sweet spot in working with our in-store teams, as well as looking at all the customer needs and how to create a better digital experience that kind of helps both our teammates and our guests.
That's actually a really good way to put it, because it's one of the things that we're going to dive into today and talk about, is that one of the biggest challenges that dealership faces, bridging the gap between what the online and the in-store experience are. It ends up being a lot like Groundhog Day for the customer a lot of times, where it's like they do all the work online. They think they picked out a car. Sometimes they've done a credit app. They've been talking to somebody sometimes for days, and then they have an appointment. They come into the store, and it's like, oh, hi, welcome to ABC Motors. My name's John. How can I help you? And they start all over again, and it frustrates customers. You can see it on their face when it happens. So getting a more personalized experience for the customer and being able to replicate that to a point where it's like a standard, but it still feels personalized to the customer, is really challenging. And it's challenging because as car dealers, it's hard to understand, I think, sometimes what the customer is really looking for. Because if I had to ask all three of you, do you think customers are primarily focused on the lowest price when they're shopping, more or less, or are they actually starting to look for other things or other ways that they're treated when they're online and then into the store?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I was going to say, I ran our consolidated sales BDC for, 8 years. And, back pre-COVID, I would say that every, 3 out of every 4 leads that came in asked for best price. I really haven't seen that as much, during and post-COVID. And I think the consumers are more conditioned. And again, it depends on your market, your brand, and how much competition you have immediately around you. But I think the consumers are really more, they've done their shopping. They already know what they think a fair price should be. And, they're always going to be conditioned to ask for price. We all are. But it seems like they're much more focused on whether you have the vehicle, whether you're going to provide them a good experience, and whether you're transparent. And, our industry is not necessarily known for that. But I think if they feel like you're taking care of them, they're more willing to pay the price. And you can kind of, at least from what I experienced at the store level, like you can get them away from price pretty quickly as long as you provide the right experience and give them what they need to know on the car.
Okay, Steve, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm kind of going to agree with it a little bit, but there's more to it, I believe, than that. Customer is looking for the customer experience, a great customer experience. But on the other hand, we all talk about price, and sadly, there are so many transitions to getting to a price that sometimes I think we confuse our customers more than we help them. I truly believe that. Depending, just pick areas, pick advertising laws in different states, et cetera. In some states, things are presented differently than other states. In some areas are presented differently than other areas. In some places, you can include all rebates and specialty rebates, and other places you can't. So I think a lot of times what we're doing is we're trying to be transparent to a point of confusion. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody.
It does. And Jen, how about your experience with the number of customers you guys get all the time?
Well, so, for our franchise, we have 109 franchise locations, and then we have 17 Echo Park stores, and we have 10 Power Sports stores. When you look at our franchise locations, I agree with what the guys just said, but there's one thing that I want to add, which is time. And typically, if I see a negative review, it has to do with the length of time that someone has spent in a store or doing paperwork. They want to get in and they want to get out. And I know that's part of the customer experience, but it's really important to me that as we streamline, we continue to cut down the time while still giving them a great experience. For our Echo Park side of the business, it's all about price, because that's the business model. It's pre-owned vehicles at a low price that are not marked up. And for us, that side of the business where you make the money, it's on F&I products, right? So you spend your time talking about how do you protect your purchase, not about the purchase itself, because it's right there. You know what the price is, there's no negotiation. It is what it is. So it's really interesting when you kind of compare the different business models to be able to really answer that question. I have to go down different paths of the customer journey. And are they looking for that pre-owned vehicle and here's the price? Or are they looking for a new or pre-owned in a different business model? So I hope that makes sense. I just think it kind of varies based on the customer.
It actually does make sense. And I would assume that you're equipped to deal with all those different types of customers, training across the different brands that you have. Because I'm definitely sure that the power sports aspect of it is way different than presenting a price on a new Ford or Chevrolet.
Yeah, it's a little different when you start talking about Harleys and four-wheelers compared to a newer pre-owned vehicle, for sure. But, you know, the customers have a lot in common. They want a great experience. They want it to be easy. They want it to be transparent. They want to get in and out, right? That's what they all can align on. It's just, I think the different models kind of guide you down a different direction of how do you make it the easiest for their own journey.
Excellent. Anybody want to add anything else on that? Cool. We're going to move along to the customer experience online and in store. So this is kind of what we talked about at the beginning. And everybody's worried and everybody's concerned with always making sure your website is optimized for conversions, getting information from customers that lets you sell them a car. And that could be a chat, that could be a lead form, that could be any type of call to action that you have on your site. And one of the issues that I'd like to talk about to start with is I was having a conversation actually earlier this morning, and they said, well, what do you think a dealer would like? What do you think a dealer would prefer, to have a live chat or a lead? And I kind of smiled and I said, the right answer is the live chat. But I think if you ask dealers in general, they would say they wanted the lead, because the lead is tangible. They can see it after the fact. There's a follow-up that they can do with it immediately. And in my opinion, and I might be wrong, I would rather have a seasoned, experienced salesperson having a chat with somebody that is live, because it's like getting a phone call in the 20 years ago. I'd rather have somebody on the phone than somebody sending in a lead. Do you guys think I'm off base with that, or what do you guys think?
But you're 100% right. I mean, a chat is it's a modern phone up, right? So you've got an urgent customer who wants answers now. And if you can engage with them and provide something meaningful, you're more likely to get a positive result. So leads, I mean, the hardest thing you do all day is try and get a customer on the phone or to respond to a text after you get a internet lead. So.
Yep.
Can
Jen,
I
what do you think about that? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
You know, we're taking something out of the equation here. And what it is the excitement of purchasing a new automobile or a new truck or whatever, or a Harley or whatever we're going to sell. And a chat is great. It's a way to bring our customers in through the door. But a lead, amazing things happen when a customer comes in. Let's just look at ourselves, ask ourselves a question. How many times do we go somewhere to buy a sofa, a table, and walked out with a complete different table? That's where the emotion comes in. And you know, that's something we all forget about today, a little bit about the automobile. Because you know what? We have an amazing product. I don't care what make, what model, whatever it is, they're all amazing. And with the lead, we can take the skill set of our individual salespeople and have them do their job. It's amazing. And again, we could all say somebody's looking for a price, and I agree with that. And other people are looking for a credit solution. I agree with that. But when a customer comes into a real showroom versus the virtual showroom, amazing things happen, and it happens every day. That's just my opinion.
Very good point. Now, Jen, how about you?
I'm kind of in the middle. I think that as if I am a shopper, I'm going to get on a chat if I want answers right now. I just want quick answers in and out to help guide me in the decision that I'm trying to make. So I like having chats because you can get customers' information quickly. With leads, what I always find is leads are great when they're customers that respond and want to buy. Leads are bad when they're customers that just submit leads and then you can't ever get them to respond to you ever again. And then what happens is stores want less of them. They want different CTAs or CTAs removed or less lead providers, right? It's all about quality over quantity. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't know that necessarily one is better than the other. I feel like they serve two different purposes. I feel like a lead is you're going to have more emails and phone calls and text messages and re-engagement to get that person to come in. And then with the chat, it's an immediate, I'm speaking to this person to give answers.
Yep, I think those are all good points. And the CTA thing is a big deal because when you look at, I've looked at thousands of dealers' websites and at what's the right amount of CTAs. And, some people are like, well, you can't have more than 3. And then you got some people that want 6 on everything. And then out of the 6, 3 of them are the exact same. They go to the exact same spot. And so it's rough giving too much choices, I think, when it comes to call to actions on the site.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of that is moving into how much information you're actually demanding of the customer prior to engaging with them at the level they want. One of the things that you notice on a lot of the newer OEM electric brands, before you can do anything, they want your name, address, blood type, and all the information that you could possibly get before they even start to engage you. And it seems to work. It doesn't seem to. It works really well for them. They don't get complaints about it. They're still selling cars, and they're connecting with their customers. And what I've found is most of your traditional brick and mortar stores that have been there for 30 years, if they ask for something, like if they would put a wall up like that, they get a lot of complaints, I think. So, and I think that more and more stores are starting to push that way, especially as they're trying to do more digital retailing online for the first half of the deal. But do you see that being a problem or something that's going to change in the future? Start with Jen.
I think that people ask for more information because they want to make sure the customer is more qualified, if you will, and that they can reach out to them. What I will tell you is we recently did a study on customers that submit leads, for example, with emails only compared to an email and a phone number. And what we found is that the customer with email only either didn't respond or it took 2 to 3 times longer than a customer that submitted both a phone number and an email. And, some would say, well, that's because they don't actually want to talk to anyone. They want to see what information you will send over to them in their email. I personally, do I think you need both? No. I would rather have a phone number than an email address. And as we've kind of tested out that theory, we've also seen better conversions with people that submit phone numbers only. But I just think it depends. And I think that a lot of times we do that as a Band-Aid to say, hey, I don't think they're going to respond to me unless I have every single piece of information. And I have to tell you, based on the data we have looked at, that seems to be true in many cases.
Okay. Steve?
I'm torn on that one, and I'm going to tell you why. I think it depends where the customer is in the purchase funnel. I believe that they're afraid to give the phone number because they know they're going to get bombarded with the phone call. I think if they're in the just starting out phase, it's real easy to put an email address which you can answer, or they could just delete it. Versus if you got their phone number, I think they're a little closer to the funnel, and I believe that that's why they're leery. Again, there's exceptions, but I truly believe that because I think it's like all of us, though. If you're not sure, give an email address, okay, whatever. Versus if somebody has your phone number, it changes everything. It's a little bit closer to you.
So, yeah, you're a little more accessible all the time on somebody else's terms when they're calling you and you're not calling them.
Exactly.
How about you, Jason?
Well, to the first question, which was, if you're putting up lead gates before you give information, what does that do for you? Well, we've got 2024. We were the poster child for that. Our digital retailing tools across the company, we put up lead gates on probably 85-90% of our stores, and we had stores that, I'm not kidding, doubled their lead counts. But to Jen's previous point, the engagement rates went way down, right? So you got customers who they're trying to figure out whether they can afford a car. They're trying to figure out payments. These new digital retailing tools are exceptionally accurate. And so they're finding out that, what they were hoping for a $500 a month payment, they got a $1,200 a month payment. They're all of a sudden not looking to talk to anybody. So, I would say we were always afraid that it was going to prevent people from wanting to submit information or to go further. It really doubled down on the submissions. The problem was then the store's working, 30% of the leads they don't make any contact with because the customer disengaged as soon as they saw their payment. So on that front, I think basic information, things they can find from other manufacturers or from other stores easily, you've got to provide that access quickly. Otherwise you could lose out. But I think if it's something that's getting a little deeper funnel, like maybe running payments, obviously asking for sales pricing, that kind of stuff, I think you can certainly ask for it. And to Jen's other point, the phone versus requiring a phone number, absolutely. You can call and you can text versus just sending an email. And we've seen the same things on our side. I just did a study for a store yesterday looking at really BMW KPI conversion rates, right? And the conversion rate on email-only leads for BMW KPI leads, which typically close at a very high rate, was 10% lighter than ones that had a phone number. So they closed at a 10% higher rate on the ones with a phone number versus the ones that were email only. So, I think there's a balance. If you don't have enough leads, open it up. If you've got too many leads, narrow the funnel. That way you can use your resources appropriately, right? Most people don't have enough salespeople these days to just burn through thousands of meaningless leads.
Very good point. And it's a real varied balance between the different points of view on it. Talking about that customer experience and the omni-channel experience for a customer. And forgive me if any of you don't know what omni-channel is, because I didn't know what omni-channel was until like about a year ago. I didn't understand. I knew what it was, but I never heard the term. So if refresher for anybody who doesn't know, it's the seamless transition for a customer from doing stuff online to coming into the store, taking the car and getting delivered. And it all seemed like one process. And it's one of the things that most car dealerships, no matter who it is, have an issue with. And I'm not going to call out anybody on the call right now and ask what you think your experience is for the transition, because one of the things I've learned in the automobile business after 30 years is that there's always three things that are happening in a store. What the upper management of the store really wants to happen, what they think is happening, and what's really happening. And it's really different from one another. because a lot of times it is like Groundhog Day that I mentioned before. And I think moving forward, the better tools that we have on our websites as dealers, the easier it's going to be to provide that experience to the customer. Because right now, when the lead comes in, it's going to come in through one system. Let's say it's your CRM. If it's a TrueCar lead, TrueCar also has an entire mini CRM that they use that the deal could be worked in. Then it could be worked in your CRM, and then the appointment gets made, gets put up on the appointment board. Person comes in, the BDC either isn't on site or is separated from the sales force, or the salesperson that dealt with them is off, and it starts all over again with, "Hi, welcome to here. What's your name? This is my name. What are you looking for?" And this person's already done maybe an hour's worth of work, picking out a vehicle, looking at the vehicle, talking about his payment, and literally coming in to take delivery. And you're basically bringing them all the way back to square one. And I think that the more we take all those tools and either connect them or make them one tool where you get the lead, you're able to work the lead, you're able to quote the customer, you're able to send the customer back the quote, you're able to schedule the appointment. Person comes in, you're in the same system, push it over to F&I, do the entire F&I presentation and deliver the car with showing the car and doing all the normal physical things. And I guess I was wondering, what do you think is that realistic? How far away from that do you think we are from having something that really ties it all together? Because there's digital retailing tools out there now, but it still is pretty separate from everything else that's happening in your store. I don't know who wants to start with this one because it's kind of a hot potato loaded one. Jason, you won the spin. Go ahead.
I don't, I'm extroverted. I can talk all day. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's, where are we at right now? I mean, we just really use the CRM, but when you look at, do I think that's feasible? 100%. I think the problem is we have so many tools at our disposal, right? We have 2 inventory programs plus the DMS. We have a CRM. We have manufacturer stuff. We have vendors or third-party lead providers who have their independent programs that filter in. I think if we were able to link those or have a hub that allowed that to be synchronous, I mean, we still kind of do it just using the CRM. I mean, we could send quotes and everything, and of course that gets pushed to the DMS when the deal's done. But there's not that transparency of, is this really an available unit, particularly on the new car side, right? Everything's kind of independent. So the person has to be the hub versus the technology being the hub. And I think if we could figure out a way to merge those, or at least connect them, that seems like it's common sense. Now, getting the salesperson to read the interactions and follow it, that's a whole different problem. But
right. Yep. How about you, Steve? What do you think about that?
Well, it's all in the handoff. It sounds stupid, but it is. It's all in the handoff. How many times does a salesperson actually read the notes in the CRM? You would think they would have. As a dealer, I would think they would have. But you know what? You brought up the 3 examples there, and they probably don't. I like to think they do. I like to think when a customer worked with a BDC, they're coming in to look at the XYZ automobile, and they know they have $1,500 down and they want X amount of dollars for their payment. When it's handed off to the salesperson, he should walk in and more or less reiterate what they've agreed to already before they came in. But I'll be upfront with you, I doubt it happens all the time. He starts all over, "My name is Bob Smith. What can I show you?" I mean, it's just...
Are you looking for a light or a dark color, a 2-door or a 4-door? It just starts all over. But
it starts all over.
Let me ask you a question. If there was a tool that was going to pull all that stuff together where the lead would come in, like a CRM, your BDC would be able to work that customer, get input from a salesperson, have it set up to come see a salesperson. Whoever's greeting the customer or anybody even answering the phone would be able to know where that customer was really at in their journey, and then just port right into the process in the store. Is that something that you think you'd be interested in as a dealer?
I think I would be.
Okay.
If it's seamless.
Yep, seamless is good. Jen, I saw you dropped off a second. I didn't know if you were back. Do you know where we're at with that question, or?
I heard the end of it. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm in the middle of the New Orleans snowstorm right now. But what I will say is that anything that makes the process more seamless for our teammates, I think is very important. We have so many systems and so many tools that it is so difficult. And I'm so happy to see that manufacturers and different groups are starting to connect the dots to bring, tier 1 and tier 3 together. But if we found a way to take our CRM and our inventory system and our third-party tools and had everything integrated, I think that would be a home run for our teammates.
Excellent. Well, I think that we've got a bright future ahead for that. So it's a good thing to look forward to. And now we'll move along to the absolute hot buzzword of the last 12 months and probably going to be for the next 2 years at least, with AI. Everything is AI now. And I remember when Google had given the first demonstration of the voice scheduling AI, that you could not tell the difference, that it was not a person. I think it was scheduling a hair appointment was the demo that they gave, that I saw first. And it was amazing. Everybody their socks were blown off. And now if you talk to any vendor, anybody providing a service, everybody's got AI involved in something, no matter what it is. And it's not all that, wow, blow your socks off AI that Google developed to schedule appointments. And there's a lot of benefits to using AI, especially in the car shopping process from the dealer end. But it's a real slippery slope, because a lot of times it looks like it's AI. It looks like it's just the same track over and over again, just asking the customer for the same thing, no matter what the customer is asking for. And to get to an actual process that generates useful information for the customer and back to the dealer, I don't think we're there yet. And I think when we get there, it's really going to help with efficiency in the store. But I think that we've got a long way to go still with that. Jen, do you guys use AI in anything right now, in customer contact?
We do. We use it to handle our sales internet leads in a few stores. We've been piloting that. We've used 2 different companies. And then we also use it in a few of our stores for incoming service calls, to schedule service, to upsell maintenance, and if needed, transfer to a teammate.
And it's going well for you so far?
Well, so AI helps stores a lot that don't have people or cannot add additional headcount. So they can't answer the phones. They can't respond to a customer in a timely manner because they're helping the customer in front of them, right? In my opinion, it solves for a need. And that need is, how do I do more with less? I think that, to your earlier point, there's a lot of different variations of AI. So I've heard some AI providers that it's not real AI, it's a script. And if you go off that script or ask a question that is not what they already have preloaded, it doesn't know how to help you. And then it does an immediate transfer. But I've heard some that really blew me away that are true AI, where you could interrupt it or ask an off-the-wall question and it's very quick and able to answer. So I think it just kind of depends. I think there are so many out there, though, it can get overwhelming and confusing as to where do you go? Who do you start with? Because you're right, there are so many that you can fall into a trap of you find one that looks good, but there's a lot of better providers out there, right? That could do a better job for your stores.
Right. And I think that the key to it getting to a point where it's spectacular is how many other systems it can tie into at the store. Where if they ask for an availability check, they're getting a real availability check. If they're asking, what do they need to qualify for a college grad rebate, that it can actually answer it or direct them to the right spot. And I don't think we're there yet. And I think when we are, and I think there are some companies that are getting there, it's really going to change that entire landscape, because you're right, with dealers that have limited staff, you can't have a one-man band anymore because there's too much stuff to do. And if there's too many leads on top of it, they're going to prioritize what they think is the best lead. And there's no possible way to do that. Steve, what do you think about AI chatbots, and are you using any of them yet in your store?
Here's what we learned the hard way. We purchased a very small, old Ford store, and very limited people work there. So we went with the AI BDC, Business Development Center, and sadly, we picked the wrong one. It wasn't up to par. It really didn't do much for us. It was probably more of a negative than a positive. It was very easy to throw it off, and it just didn't work well. And again, it's probably our fault. We probably picked the wrong one. But again, it was a very small store. The store didn't sell many cars, and it was a Band-Aid on a small wound. And we learned the hard way. There was a wrong way to go for us anyway. I'm sure as we go forward, there'll be bigger and better things. It's like they have a commercial now on, I don't even know what it's for what. And the guy wants to do something. The guy's saying you have a problem with your man bun. And then it just doesn't, a lot of them don't perform properly, and they do get thrown off easily. So I think if you find the right one, I think there's a future for it. I truly do. And we all know there's going to be a future for it. But at least for us, not yet.
And I think the takeaway there is to really put a lot of due diligence into who you're looking at. And just because you're doing business with them in another area, don't assume, and they're doing a great job, don't assume that they're going to do a great job with that. And just really take your time and look at it, as many different things as you can. Moving over to Jason, do you guys in your group use AI, and do you have any examples of like a really good AI story or a really bad AI story with a customer?
I mean, we've used it in like small circumstances with like chat companies, right? I mean, I think we're really right now we're trying to evaluate a couple AI companies through corporate, and so far I think everyone else has nailed it. When is AI not that intelligent? It's a fancy script, and it shows a little bit of empathy once in a while. I'm like, that's not really what we're looking for. But I am excited. I think AI, I'm not overly concerned about it replacing our people. I mean, that's really our most important asset. But I do think AI should supplement and make their lives easier, make it simpler, faster, and do a lot of stuff that honestly they either don't have the time to do or they're just not consistently good at, which, I work directly with the sales teams. There's plenty of things that they're not the best at. They can close some deals though. So I think I'm not there on the voice piece yet. We've tested out and mystery shop some other stores, Jen. But it's sometimes those AI bots, they just kind of go off into left field, or the system itself doesn't connect. And I think you nailed it. I mean, if we can find the right vendor who uses a product that's truly large learning model, I think the sky's the limit. And I really think it could be used to replace most, if not all, text and or email conversations. I think that's where it would be most easily applied.
Cool. Very good point. Before we move on to keeping a customer for life. Something just actually occurred to me when we were talking about AI, that it's not just the chat bots and the voice answering and dealing with customers in that respect. One of the other things that I've noticed more and more salespeople using as I visit stores is that there's more and more salespeople in the store that are using ChatGPT. They're using Gemini in Google. I can't remember what the other one is, to help them answer questions for customers. And good BDC departments are starting to use it to help answer customer questions. And I know that there's a little bit of risk in that, but it was really impressive the first time. And I hadn't seen it until about 2 months ago, where I was sitting in a BDC in a Nissan store, and I noticed the girl had ChatGPT up, and she's talking to the customer and asking ChatGPT questions that the customer's asking to get some general information that a lot of times ends up being, they get what's the towing capacity on a 2025 Chevy 2500 extended cab? And the BDC person's always, and doesn't know. And I'm starting to see more salespeople, more BDC reps use it. Do you guys have any salespeople or BDC that are using the actual AI tools yet on their end? Anybody can jump in on this one.
I mean, I had to shut a lady down the other day because she was using it to put together her notes to put in the CRM, which didn't make any sense. But yeah, I think you're right. I think people are using it to get quick answers because it is so efficient if you're using a true large learning model. So yeah, I mean, I think the scary part is, what if you just took the middle person out with that? It might just do it for you. So
right. And that's actually what I hear from a lot of BDC. So the majority of pushback that I hear from BDC managers when they get real about it is, you know what, AI is great. I'd love to have AI, but then where's my job going to be in a year? Or where's my job going to be in a year and a half? I want to work here for more than a year and a half. And there's an actual fear, I think, in that it is going to replace the actual person as they move along. You think that's a risk, Jen?
I think, when we started piloting some AI solutions on the sales side, at first, some of the stores that were part of the pilot were nervous about that. But it kind of changed because what they said was, it's great because it allows us to help the customers that are shopping right now that are responding. And the AI can continue to reach out to the leads and customers that just don't write back, right? So you have to email them or call them 8, 10, 12 times to get a response. So I think that it kind of depends. And once we put it in some of our stores, they started feeling a lot better about it because it helped them not get overwhelmed with customers that just weren't ready yet.
Okay.
But I will say, we don't just add technology into stores. I think it is very important to get buy-in from teams to want to try it. So anytime we do try a different AI solution or any type of technology for that matter, we ask the stores if they want to be part of the pilot to give us their feedback. And I think that plays a big role as well.
Okay. Those are all very good points about AI. And I think that we're going to have a lot of interesting things that happen in the next 6 months, even with AI. So I'm looking forward to it. The last subject that we're going to talk about is actually something that's always been really important to me. And it's I'm going to call it a theory that you have customers for life, because I've been selling cars for 30 years, let's say, maybe a little more. And I haven't sold a car myself probably in 10 years. And I've been out of the retail part of the automobile business for 6. I still have at least 10 customers a year that religiously will call me when they're ready to get a car, even though I'm technically not in the business anymore. And those are customers for life. But I've sold thousands of cars in my career. And to me, customers for life seems like it's a myth. I know that every manufacturer pushes it and wants it, obviously, but I think that brand loyalty and dealership loyalty is really hard to get. I think the people that do get it really have to work at it. And there's most of the people that it works for, it's real old school solutions. They're doing a lot of community stuff locally. They're embedding themselves in the community. And I think that meshing that up with their digital plan or a dealership's digital plan is really important. And I think that there's a lot of ways that they do it wrong. One of the things that I see a lot is when the inmates run the asylum for the most part, and they have the salespeople are making all their own videos unchecked and putting them on social media for the store. And you've got 9 different messages going out 10 different ways about how you want to be presented out there. And I'm just thinking about what that looks like for you three. And we'll start from the other end of the spectrum with Steve, if he's still there, because I think his screen blanked out, but I don't know if he can hear us or not.
I hear you perfectly. There's no screen, but I can hear you.
Perfect.
That's probably one of the toughest things we're ever going to do. How do you make people happy profitably? And on the other hand, how do you try to keep a customer for life? You know, as a dealer or as an organization, we try to put out a message. We try to do the right things. We try to be in the community. We try to do everything as right as you can possibly do it. Sadly, others try to purvey that same message and they just don't do it. I'm not even going to say as well as we do, as on the same page as we do. And you're right, especially we have lots of younger people that work for us, and they all have Facebook page, and they all have TikTok, and they all have all the social media out there. And it does skew the message. It skews it a lot. And the answer is we have a social media director that tries to work with people and try to keep them all on the same message. But I'm not going to lie to you, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult.
Social media director is a great idea, and I'm seeing more and more of that out there right now. Jason, how are you guys handling the social media to keep a customer for life or engaged?
I mean, I still think it comes down to just the internal relationships within the store is the biggest piece. But yeah, if we're tying it to kind of personalized marketing, social media, like I'm not even gonna pretend. We've got like a handful of stores. At our stores, it's at the store level. I mean, obviously, Hendrick Corporate's got its own social media team. But we've got some stores that are amazing and really have built an online culture. They have fun videos, they're engaging, and they sell a ton of cars off of it. And we've got other stores that post, pictures of poor pictures of a potluck lunch and, call it team building, and hope that customers will respond positively to it. So I think it's one of those things where I think there does need to be more consistency. From an individual salesperson's perspective, I haven't sold cars, I think, in 12 or 14 years. So I think it's something that they can build their brand. And as long as they're aligned with the overall store and they're not kind of doing anything too risky, I think it's okay for them to have their own messaging, because it's building the store while building the individual at the same time.
Excellent. Good point. And then Jen, the other thing that I'm was wondering about was, they talk about turning customers into brand ambassadors. And I know that you guys got a lot of Harley stores, and Harley Davidson customers are historically fantastic brand ambassadors for the brand and for the place where they buy their bike. And I was just, because you have experience in both, I was wondering, do you ever see that kind of loyalty in other brands or makes or models or even dealer locations that you guys have? And if you do, how are you doing it?
Wow, that's a tough question. Harley has a little bit of different rules for where customers are allowed to buy. and not being able to go in between PMAs. So part of the loyalty with the Harley customer is also dictated by regulations for those dealers as well, right? There's a few anomalies when you have like the Sturgis rally or they go to Daytona and you're allowed to buy outside of that area. But for the most part, they're very strict on where you can and cannot buy. So their home dealership is where they're always going to be loyal to unless they move. I think for some of our brands, I agree with what the gentleman before me said, and we try to do the same things. We have our social media plans, we have people in stores that handle it, we have teammates that post, but it's also kind of the store atmosphere. And for me, what it really comes down to is the more fun they make the buying experience for that customer in the store, the greater followings we see for those teammates and those stores online afterwards. So it's like a birthday celebration every time someone buys a car in some of our stores, right? And then you just see all these teammates and they have tons of followers and they get people that refer customers, and it's amazing. Stores that don't do that, I agree with the potluck comment and some strange things that might end up there that doesn't necessarily drive the customer. But I really think it all comes down to the experience of those guests when they're in the store. And because of that, that's what helps to elevate the social media experience for those locations.
Excellent. That's a lot to digest and figure out how to translate into all of it. But I think that the celebration when somebody buys a car is actually really special, because sometimes people forget how important it is when somebody buys a car. It's not something they do every day. I think it's still the second biggest purchase that somebody's going to make in their lifetime. So when the dealer treats it like it's a special celebration, it really goes far with that person in remembering that happened. I know we're getting a little short on time. We've been having a very good conversation about everything, and some questions had come in. I'll just throw a couple of them out there. A couple people had asked if we could share information about who's a leader in the AI space. What I will say to any of those folks, I will follow up with you after this and get you any kind of information that we can. We've got a lot of good stuff to share with that. And the one question that I definitely want to make sure we talk about is somebody had asked how much you think we should be trying to mirror other large retail sites when it comes to the online experience, like an Amazon, like Zillow, people that handle e-commerce for pretty much everything. How much of a process should that look like? Because I can't see the car buying experience being like buying a garbage bags on Amazon. But where's the happy medium for that? Jen, what do you think?
Well, we've launched some dealerships with Amazon, actually. Some of our Hyundai dealers, and we are selling new Hyundais on Amazon. And it's been a very interesting experience. Here's what I will say. I think that our websites sometimes can be difficult to navigate. People just want information and answers, and they want it to be fast and easy. And to me, when I think about an Amazon, I think about a Zillow. I can put in a few filters and I can find exactly what I'm looking for. I don't need to talk to anyone and I can get my answer. So I think that should we get closer to an experience where the customer can kind of dictate their journey? Yes. I don't know how to mirror it 100%. And, as we've participated in Amazon and we've started with our 2 stores on the platform, I will tell you it's been seamless and pretty easy, which is I was shocked to see that and how easy it is for the customer to go through that. And you do a few pieces of paperwork and the deal is done. So I personally do think it should be more seamless comparing to some of those sites.
Excellent. Steve, what do you think about mirroring a more traditional online shopping experience?
I think it's just another step. I like Zillow also. I like to look at properties. And after I'm done looking at them and clicking and doing whatever I'm going to do, I generally will call a realtor to go look at the real thing.
Yep, the real person is a big deal. Jason, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's kind of a little bit of both, right? Play it down the middle. I think we got more and more consumers that are their decisions made before they buy the car. I got in the car business because I'm a car guy, and I think I bought 3 or 4 cars that I never even sat in a similar model. I just liked it and was like, you know what, I'm going to buy that. And so I think giving customers an option and a streamlined method to get what they want whilst buying a car, typically at full price from us, is certainly an option that I think we need to present. But I also think that we have a fair size of customers that are always going to want to come in. They're going to experience the car. They'd rather deal face to face. And I think that's going to be probably the majority of customers, if I had to guess. But I feel like it's a growing segment that the customers just want to do an online transaction. I don't know how many of you have bought a Tesla. I did it once. And it was a pretty straightforward process. Literally every single thing was done online. And then I just went in and they handed me my keys and I signed a couple of North Carolina DMV forms because our DMV is ancient here. I think there's something to be said for that. And it's not the majority of customers, but I think it's a big enough segment we should pay attention to it.
True. Yeah. Anybody in the car business who's never tried the online shopping experience through Carvana, I think it's a really good primer to understand what a hands-off process looks like that works pretty well. I was very impressed when I had seen it the first time. So we're to the end of the webinar. I really appreciate everybody who joined us, and thank you very much to the 3 panelists. I think that we provided a great discussion for people to get some ideas and provoke some thought about things that are going to happen in their dealer.